we've had a little bit of a lull in the Atlantic, you could say, and we could see some changes, maybe dramatic changes as we head into the month of August. All on track with what we expect any given season. We are monitoring 2 areas for possible tropical development over the next 10 days or so, one in the Gulf and one in the Atlantic.
Yeah, we could see the first significant African disturbance, just this tropical wave that's going to emerge off the continent this week, and we have plenty of time to watch it. I mean, when we look at what August can feature, this is the zone that we pay attention to, and it's by no means we're trying to hype this thing up. We're just highlighting the ability that we have at this point to look at what computer models are saying, forecast global models, even some AI models. They've been highlighting, trying to develop maybe something, or at the very least, slowly organize. It's a robust wave. There's a lot of moisture associated with this one moving off of the African coastline.
So you may argue the Basin behaving how the Basin does. Exactly. We want to bring in Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross to join us. Bryan, anytime we can include you in the conversation, well, it's always a treat, but it also means that there's something to talk about. So I hand it off to you, my friend, because we have to watch what's playing out off the African coast and then also look closer to home into the Gulf.
Yeah, I think you said it exactly right. This is a situation where we have things to show these days that we didn't used to be able to show, and just got to give people an understanding of what's happening in the tropics. There is no imminent threat at all, but we are starting to turn a corner. We haven't turned it yet into a more productive tropical season. I think that's going to take at least a couple of weeks before things change more significantly, but we are seeing some things to look at right now. And it's that tropical disturbance right over the African coast that we're interested in today. And remember, the tropical disturbance is moisture. It's a cluster of thunderstorms. It brings a lot of moisture into the atmosphere. And so we know the Atlantic has been covered with dust and dry air and hostile upper level winds. This thing has pretty good spin to it, and moisture kind of fights off against that to a bit. So that's what we're going to watch happen here. Here's the computer analysis of the flow there. And if you look here, you can see kind of a broad circulation right in there. So that's pretty energetic. And we're going to watch that thing move on to the east over the Atlantic. Okay, here we go. Looking at the computer analysis of it now. And there is the moisture blob. The dark green means the moisture blob. Notice there's other moisture out here, but this is not, this stuff out there in the Atlantic is just always there. It's not an organized system. But you also notice, look all up in here. This is all dry air and super dry air over here. So this is not going to be easy sledding for this disturbance as it moves forward. Watch in the upper left, that's the day. We're going to jump now through Tuesday to Wednesday, going forward in time. There's Tuesday, there's Wednesday. And you notice nothing is terribly organized here. And it went, oh, well, look, it went all the way to Saturday. I wanted it to stop there on Wednesday. But in any case, on Wednesday, it was just in the middle of the Atlantic around all this dry air, so nothing developing. So look what's left of it when we get all the way through this week to Saturday. And you see it's a blob of moisture, but there is no circulation. It's just kind of a kink here in the winds in this model. This is a European model, winds going like that. So what we're going to say is that this system is heading in the direction of the northeastern Caribbean. If it does what the European model says, it'll come through there as a moisture surge, kind of a gusty moisture surge. It looks like it's just going to have a very hard time across the Atlantic, and all of the models pretty much agree with that there's very little chance of development as it moves on across the Atlantic. And as a matter of fact, we can look at an analysis of what that development, the development odds are. And here you see in the Atlantic, back in here, purples, well, look, purples are at the lowest end of the scale, so a little chance. So let's say 10, maybe at most 20% chance there. When we get here, though, after the time that it's here, so again, very low chance that it's developed by the time it's in the northeastern Caribbean. Notice we have a little higher chance up here, but still, we're way down at the end of the odd scale here. But still, the atmospheric pattern, if it comes this way, and if it does get up in here somewhere east of the Bahamas, it looks like the atmospheric pattern is somewhat more conducive to development. Again, long way in advance after Saturday. So this is the next 10 days of possibilities in the next week. So this is where we're going to be watching. So just as all kind of a heads up. Now, one more thing we can look at is these days we have the new AI models. Well, it jumped ahead on me there. Let me go back, and because I wanted to show you that. The new AI models indeed show the possibility of low pressure developing up in this area here to the east of the Bahamas. So again, this is next Monday. So this is a week from today, show this possibility. Now, the way you look at these AI models is there are 50 possibilities, and then you kind of each color. So this is the Google AI is in blue, and the European Center or the Euro AI is in green. So these, again, are down in the low odds, down in the 10 to maybe up to 20% range, but 10 to 15% range, something like that in terms of development. But we're talking about a week in advance of a system that hasn't even developed. So a lot can happen. It's just, this is all just a very heads-uppy kind of thing. Interesting that the AI does show that. So just to show you here what is steering this thing and why we have some kind of confidence that it'll kind of go in this direction. High pressure to the north, lots of dust out here, and there's this dip in the jet stream here. So this is on Wednesday. So there's where the system is, and you can see that there's kind of a path to the north up this way. So all that looks very logical in terms of what the models say. So the bottom line is no tropical development is expected for the next week, and then we'll start thinking, because the overall atmospheric pattern looks to be a little more conducive for development about that time from what we can tell a week in advance. And then here we say just one more look here at the moisture. So here we are today. Here's the moisture of our system. I just want you to see the change here. Look at all the dry air up to the north. And this is the change coming up over the next 10 days if the computer forecasts are right. Here we go, forward in time. There goes one disturbance. Here comes another disturbance. And then here comes another disturbance. And notice there's just much more moisture in here, more greens and blues here, high moisture than we have seen as these impulses come off of Africa. So that's the change that's coming that we see, but it's probably not going to be this week. Thinking next week for turning the corner. Guys?
We'll have to wait and see, Brian. I mean, when it comes to what we've been seeing, and I don't want any sort of correlation, but what we've been seeing recently in the Eastern Pacific, is it possible that the MJO Phase 2 is going to be a bit more favorable as we head into the first part of August for the Atlantic?
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. The MJO is this pulse that goes around the Earth. It makes it more conducive for development and then suppresses development. So it's been suppressed over the Atlantic, but it comes from west to east. So if the Eastern Pacific picks up later, normally the Atlantic picks up if the pulse survives. So far, they haven't been surviving, but there is indication that maybe that will change, is what we expect as we head toward August.
Everybody wants an answer, Brian.
Yeah.
Nobody has a crystal ball. We
Yeah,
need
but they want
billionaires.
it weeks in advance now, yes.
We know people have vacations, they've got things, lives to live,
Right.
but all we can do is offer up the discussion and wait and see. Appreciate that, Brian. Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross joining us.